I'm glad you're in the room. I hope you got your coffee. I do. Maybe something stronger. Who the heck knows? But we're glad to see you back. I'm Catherine White. I'm the show mastermind of this weekly Friday Power Lunch. We love bringing you a show packed with great guests and political gab because we love to amplify the voices in this room, the grassroots, the people getting stuff done. So we're so glad you're here. And also we like to make politics fun. So we hope you enjoy that part of it as well. So let's get to some news. So, you know, it's times like these that we learn to live again, love again, do things again, get activated again. And we saw that there's a new day rising across the Commonwealth. Maybe not the day we thought that would be rising, but here we are. And to just at least be together to get things going. We saw Ralph Northam do such a great speech, his last address to the Commonwealth. I'm very proud of that speech. It was such a celebration of everything we've delivered and also a call to unity. And I was really, really, proud of him to actually address the racial reckoning and his redemption story. I think it's so important as we try to move this and not let this go, but this is the topic that we need to keep fighting for. And we really saw a historic 4 years. So that's really great news. And then of course, a divided General Assembly got kicked off with a brand new session. And it was divided on policy and also divided on social identity. I don't know if you got to see the pictures of it, but it was like mask on one side, unmask on the other side, and you saw that gavel be passed from the first woman we made history in Virginia, first woman majority leader, the gavel get passed to Groner, Todd Gilbert. So anyways, so some stuff in the crosshairs, as we know, will be voting rights, criminal justice reform, gun control, but the Senate pledges to hold the line. And, on the federal level, we're a little frustrated today as we see the voting rights kind of feel like it's coming to a halt. But what we do know is we should never give up on voting rights. It's the key to our democracy. So we need to keep in that fight no matter what. So good news story, though. I always think it's really important to highlight good news. And we all saw that 95 gridlock. And what you may not have heard about was a story that took place after that 30-hour holdup with travelers stuck in Hungary, is that there was a bakery truck on the road, the Schmidt Bakery, and two motorists saw this bakery truck and they called the company in the morning and they said, hey, do you think that driver could deliver that bread out of the truck? And lo and behold, and within 20 minutes, the truck driver had that back end open, was passing out bread to travelers. So I think what's the good news in that story is that, it's like, see something, do something. It really takes people looking around to see what could be done and speaking up, making a call, getting it done. So I really wanted to share that with you because I think we always need to look for the good news. And that's why we have Josh Cole in the room too, right? He always brings it. So it's time to carry on and get strong. And let's introduce our guest for this great show today. I'd love to welcome Tom Perriello. Welcome, Tom. You are a former congressman, candidate for governor, and ED for the U.S. programs at Open Society Foundation. What is up today, Tom?
Well, is the key word, was a candidate for governor. Just wanted to say how great it is to be on the phone with all of you, to be on the phone with two of my absolute heroes, Josh Cole, who has been a winner in victory and a winner in defeat. He has just been such a principled person. I know that comes from his faith. But he's a fighter, and he just did so much good in the General Assembly, and the party would be smart to find a role for him to continue to lead and shape and engage a generation of people. He's a prophetic voice for us. And Abigail Spanberger, who is just a true, I won't say unsung hero, because many of us sing her praises, but she has been put into an incredibly difficult situation before and after redistricting. She has taken difficult vote after difficult vote. She is, such a wonderful, wonderful thinker and organizer, and someone who I think really gets the threat to our democracy, not just the economic policy issues, but really getting this, that the real divide today is not Democrats and Republicans. It's people who are pro-democracy and people that are pushing towards authoritarianism. So having her voice in the House has been such a big deal, and I'm honored to have her in our Commonwealth.
Well, you did a great setup. We like to introduce her. Thank you, Tom. Great to have you on the show. We so appreciate your time. And yes, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, CD7. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm so pleased to be with you. It is wonderful to see familiar faces. Tom Perriello, you are always so kind and a good friend. And Josh Cole is just an extraordinary leader and voice on so many issues. So I'm excited to be part of the conversation with them today.
We look forward to it. And I know Mom's in the room and, always, I love it because that's what it's all about, right? So thank you. We look forward to unpacking everything that's been going on in your world and looking forward to getting you reelected. And next up, the soul of the party, Josh Cole. And I loved it, Josh. I went on your Twitter to see how you described yourself. And you were like pastor, a former state representative, preacher, millennial, idealist. What else did you say? Made in the 90s. I love that. Hope dealer, and I fight evil for a living.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. I love your superpower. I think you have a t-shirt, I fight evil for a living.
I might have to get it made.
I'm in. So thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm elated to be with Tom Perriello and Congresswoman Spanberger, who's about to be my Congresswoman. And I'm really excited and looking forward to it and just sharing some of my views today. So let's get into it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. It's always great to see you. And we'll be looking forward to talking about Martin Luther King's Day on Monday and also voting rights. So thank you, Josh, for being here. And we have Julie Greenberg talk about, we like to fight evil. One way to go after it is through money. And you are here from the Defenders of Democracy Against Disinformation. Hello, Julie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk about a concrete action you can take to defeat disinformation. And to be on this event today with three people whose elections I helped work on, even though I'm a Maryland resident, is just such an honor. I can't even say how amazing this is. And I really appreciate being able to tell you a few minutes about something you can do to fight Fox News.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Julie, for bringing it. And we love activism. That's how we get people elected. So thank you. We'll look forward to unpacking how we can take action. And last but not least, a troublemaker that I really love and adore, Julie Womack of Red Wine and Blue.
You got it. You said it right.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a little tongue twister, but I got the wine part.
You got the wine part perfect. That's great. No, I'm excited to be here. This is an amazing show. Like when I got the lineup, I was like, whoa, this is fabulous. I am the anchor, so hang on to the end to hear. I'd love to talk a little bit about what we're up to. We are all about suburban women, really keeping everybody engaged and empowered to take action. And I'd love to talk to you about what we're focusing on right now. So I will be back at the end.
Excellent. Yes, go do some ironing. That's what suburban women do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Teasing you. All right. So look, we love to have everybody in the room. And as you know, last week we did a shout out about how we have subscribers to our show, Patreons. And if you'd like to support our show for the cost of a cup of coffee, please do. And thank you to our new patrons. We have Elizabeth Fogarty, Irene Upshur, and Michelle House. And if you're in the house, please raise your hand. And thank you all for always supporting our show. It really helps us do our work. And we know supporting women is a good thing. And I know we have what we call the closed captioning on, because we have to get with it. People do sometimes have issues and they need to be able to read. It may be frustrating to some of you. So what you need to do, you can turn it on by clicking the transcript tab on your Zoom navigation menu. And if you are on a phone and it's really frustrating you to no end, go to more settings and toggle the option for closed captioning off. If you have an issue, please just direct message the team, especially Robin, or stay in the after chat. We'll get it fixed up for you. Speaking of friends in the after chat, this is a call out to my friend Pearl from California. I have what you sent me was the slaw saw. Thank you so much. It's delicious. So thank you, Pearl, for sending us love. We love you too. And I like to introduce my co-host, Jalicia Ward, the Dazzler. Hello, Jalicia.
Hi, Catherine. How are you?
My gosh, I feel so much better. We had such a great talk yesterday, and I'm so glad we're on the show today together.
Absolutely. I 100% enjoyed our talk yesterday. Thank you for giving me that time. And I'm excited. I'm excited for all the amazing guests that we have here today. I'm excited for the conversation, for voting rights, for Martin Luther King Jr. Day that we have coming Monday. We have a lot of great events and a lot of information to share. And you guys are at the right place this Friday afternoon. That's all I have to say.
That's it. I love it. And I want to say a big thank you. Call up this real quick. Our team, we have Stair Ambassador Buzz, Robin Show Wizard, Rosemary Shortstops on break, and had Heidi Dragna, our Twitter guru. Thank you, team, for always doing such great work. And I want to pitch it over because we have a lot to unpack to the awesome Louisa Borowski, head of the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, to get this started. Hello, Louisa.
Hello, Catherine. I am so glad to be here at the Power Lunch, as always. And as people are used to, I'm going to kick it off with some calls to action. So as Catherine mentioned, our legislative session is getting underway, which means there are a lot of bills that we need to be tracking, but also acting on. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to actually check out our priority bills letter. Coalition members have been submitting bills that they think we really have a chance of passing this year or need to do some offense on, and we are highlighting those in our priority bills letter. And then we're also talking about some of the areas where we're really going to have to do defense. And I know Catherine mentioned a lot of them as we started off today. And we want to make sure that our legislators know we're paying attention and we have got their backs for this legislative session. And that's what this priority bills letter does. So if you are part of a grassroots group that doesn't typically come to our coalition meetings, but you'd be interested in supporting these priority bills and signing your group's name to the letter, you can email me and I will make sure you're added on. The more groups that we have, the more it tells our legislators that these are things we're very serious about and we are paying attention to. So please join us in supporting these priority bills. So that's the first thing that people can do. The second one is we already have a one-click call to action for this legislative session where we're asking our Democratic members of the Senate who are in the Education and Health Committee to preserve the protections for transgender kids that were created in 2020. There's already a bill that's going to try to roll back these protections. And as you know, we've seen a lot of, Republican, I would say, that would be their offense, but we would maybe call it something different in the schools. And we really need to prioritize schools and prioritize our kids and our teachers during this session. And so I will put that one-click call to action in the chat. Please do it today. The sooner they hear from us, the better. And on top of that, if you happen to have a legislator, if your senator is in that committee, the Education and Health Committee, please email them directly so that they hear from you because you're their constituent. And then the last thing is we always would love more people to join in our working groups to help do some of the work that it's going to take to make it through this legislative session. So I'm going to remind you that we have working groups on climate and clean energy, gas and pipelines, gun violence prevention, education, healthcare, and messaging. And so if you are interested in any of those working groups and you're not already a member, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Just send me an email and I will connect you to the lead of that group. We can always use more support. And even if you can only give a little bit of time each week, that's great. The more people, the better. So that's it, Catherine. That's what we're looking forward to for this upcoming General Assembly session.
Well, it sounds like a lot. And I have to say, speaking of the calls to action, we saw Andrew Wheeler be put up and then Elizabeth Schultz, and we know the education nightmare that some of this, that she can be. So this is really important now to contact your senators. We can actually do something around this, but I think it shines a light maybe on the brand new day dawning on us that, we can't really just sit back. There's lots to do. So
yeah, and I think that's the big thing. It makes a difference when the legislators hear from us, and they've told us that they pay attention to how many emails and how many calls they receive, and we know that the other side is going to be doing the same thing. And if we
Right.
let up, what that says to some of either our more moderate Democrats who might be deciding how they're going to vote, or some of the more moderate Republicans who might be deciding how to vote. We want them to know that, we have an opinion as people who live in Virginia about how we want Virginia to be for us,
Right.
for our communities. And so it's a voice that matters, and it doesn't take much time to do.
And I see there's some good news with, I mean, we do see some Republicans willing to sign on bills. And I love that the group, I know the work that some other groups are doing to work with those different members to try to pass good stuff. So there is some light in this where we can get some stuff done, but we just got to stay active. And I would tell people, join the coalition. That's one way. Get your group on the website. I think being in community, it really helps because it does, again, you feel like trying to make movement. But thank you, Louisa, for bringing it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
Have a great Friday.
Oh, I thank you. You too. We'll see you on maybe Monday. Maybe we'll get our marching shoes on. I hope everybody is planning what they're going to do on Monday. So I am so excited to have Tom Perriello here. And hello again, Tom. Woohoo! Yeah. So let's take a deep breath. It's so good to see you. I think about my just own little journey starting in 2017, and I know that you've been at this a while. So having your perspective, even from that grassroots look that you do have, as this day dawns, where we're handing the keys over to this new administration, the Youngkin administration, I think it's times like these we need to figure out basically what it means for our party going forward. And on the eve of this transfer of power, what insights, advice, what's on your mind? Let's just get this started. What are you thinking?
So first of all, thanks everyone again for your amazing work. Thank you for your year in and year out organizing. Thank you for taking a break from Wordle to be part of this today. I think that the most important thing to remember in all of this is that their side are what we call reactionaries. And their reaction is to our success and to our progress. And we need to keep an eye on the fact that in the arc of history, we are winning, and we're winning something that has been very rare in human history, which is starting to be a genuinely multiracial democracy. And we are also trying to figure out how to be a country of opportunity and an American dream in an economy that isn't the post-World War II economy. When we built that classic American middle class, it was a time where globally there were reasons we could build that endless opportunity that don't apply today. And we are really looking at this defining moment for American history. If we can do it, if we can start to have a democracy that doesn't have systems of caste and second-class citizenship, and we can build an economy of opportunity that's sustainable, there aren't a lot of examples in human history. And I think what Congresswoman Spanberger and Luria and others are doing is really laying a foundation for a new American dream, an American dream that's affordable. And I think as we go in these fights in the state legislature and the federal legislature, we should just remember we're on the right side morally, we're on the right side historically. And if you saw this week the spat between Governor DeSantis and Trump, it's not that hard to get their side fighting when we are unified. It's tough to be unified while the legislation is in the House, in the Senate. The House has done their job, as the House always does, the people's house. But I think we know we are a few weeks away at the most, March 1st, with this State of the Union address. We need to be ready to shift into celebrating from the rooftops the historic achievements that Spanberger, Luria, and others have created for working class folks, for middle class folks. We hope that'll still have universal pre-K and climate rebuild if we can get some modified version of Build Back through. So everyone's just got to be ready to do that. And I think, if there's a silver lining here from the Virginia election, it's that despite the fact that there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm and rightly or wrongly a positive message didn't break through, we still saw great turnout of Democrats, actually. We saw when I was up in 2010, we had just lost by 19 points. We lost by 1.5 points this time. And frankly, we left some points on the board. So I think we need to remember that our agenda is popular. We have incredible all-stars on the ballot this year who we can be proud of and celebrate. So there's a lot of reason to believe, not just in the short term, but in the medium term, that this is a darkness before a very bright dawn.
Oh, I think that we need to all hear that. I would say yes, and double snaps, as we say. And so the margin, like you said, wasn't that large. We're talking 60,000, which I look back, and it was even back in when Hillary lost. It was the same margin. And it was funny because it was almost the same tactics were used and so on. So it's a good reminder sometimes about, when we do politics and we run campaigns, that there's just some things that we can't forget to do. And you write a really great article in the New York Times, or we thought it was, we read about it, we read it. And that you said, again, there was a warning there and there was also a roadmap. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that in the sense of being constructive? Now that you've had time, you wrote that before, and now you have time to think about it. What does that roadmap look like for, moving forward in your mind, especially for activists?
So there's a phrase that I really like that we're not supposed to use anymore called "stronger together" because it was the Hillary tagline.
Great phrase.
But I really think it combines the sort of the strength people want and the unity people want. And that's what I really saw from the House caucus in the days after the Virginia election. There were lots of reasons for centrists to be mad at progressives to be mad at centrists, the White House to be mad at the Senate. We can always be mad at the Senate. But there was a very strong sense that we rise or fall together, and that people were going to take votes that were less than perfect. Certainly, Spanberger is a profile in courage on this. And it was about saying, look, we got to put the people first, and people are struggling. Parents are struggling, our country's struggling. And I think when we focus on that positive agenda, but we also are very clear about calling out what the danger is on the other side, the radicalness and danger of the other side. And I think if there was a problem in Virginia, it was that we did that. And I think that's part of the reason you saw that turnout. I don't think we should move away from calling out the forces we're up against, but we also want to be offering that positive alternative. And I think the delegates that were able to put forward the Medicaid expansion, the expanded minimum wage, living wage, and other things, were able to do that. We were tracking the polling on criminal justice reform, and after 10 weeks of ads by Youngkin, he really hadn't moved the needle on that. So there are issues, there are ways to talk about it that are better than others, but the overall issue of, the hot buttons, the CRT thing's more complicated, but I think there's still evidence that that was more about school closures or not feeling like we were putting forward a positive public education agenda. So I think we need to be sure to do that. What I think we haven't done well and we never do well is messaging. And I think
talk about it ad nauseum, don't we?
We do. We're very good at talking about messaging. We're less good at the actual messaging. I think this is where during the legislative fight, it was always going to be difficult because the primary energy was to get things passed. A lot of that is Democrat on Democrat conversations. A lot of that was inevitably focused on Sinema and Manchin. And I think it's going to be easier because I think we all agree that come State of the Union, we need to get whatever we can on voting rights. It was a terrible day yesterday, but it's not over. It's looking rough. There's build back. But when that State of the Union address happens, we all need to be ready to shift gears, and we need to be 100% in sales mode on what we can be proud of. The ARP was a historic reduction of child poverty. The Infrastructure Act is vital for helping to rebuild our infrastructure, make it easier for people to get to work. So many things that are, executive orders on antitrust that are going to be massively good for our farmers, for our small towns and communities to be able to have a chance to fight back against these monopolies. So many things that we will be able to dig into and sell in the coming months.
Yeah. And so I it is funny how we always go back, and I know the grassroots have responded, and I know knowing how we built this movement to here and got here, that we do adjust. We look right away, well, what's not working well? Messaging. So I know our grassroots coalition has started a team to work around this, but I think the struggle is always in the issue of amplification. And, we have Julie Greenberg here from talking about media, and there is a lot of power in that. And, we have to be more creative in how we do this. So in organizations or people that are maybe getting this right, and this is off the cuff, that I don't know if you could speak to this, in your opinion, who's getting it right? Who's doing a good job of it? I know I see Wisconsin Dems seem to have their act together sometimes, but it seems to be messaging, but you have to be able to get that out. And that's investment, infrastructure, it's talking to people. And it seems like we are still not investing in that right now. We can be doing it right now, right? So that's a lot, but what do you think? It seems like to me, we're going to still talk about messaging this year unless we figure out a way to do it and do it all year long.
Well, I'm in that strange position of having gone from asking all of you all for checks to being the one that write checks. And we were happy to support the amazing work of Red, White, and Blue. But it is also a little bit like those 80s commercials when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. So I have to be careful when I say things that then everyone
Right.
doesn't move to the soccer ball. But I think that we do know a few things are very clear. One is right now, people talking to other people in their own community is more effective than politicians talking. So we need you all to be forming truth squads, ideally not adversarial, but you're looking at local radio, you're looking at letters to the editor, you're showing up at school board meetings, you're taking the time to talk, not virtue signal or attack, but really try to engage. It's very frustrating. I know that. That's one. Second, I think we don't have to all agree on the same bumper sticker. We're never going to, but we need to understand a core positive message and a core negative message. And then people's tailoring to their audiences needs to be working off of that. And we're working on a potential national hub on this. But for example, if we all agree making the American dream affordable again, or it could be something else, and we all agree that the other side is, radical and dangerous or just for the rich, then you may message differently to younger Black voters in Hampton Roads than you do to suburban white women in Prince George's County. But there are variations on an agreement that we have a core thing that we're coming around. And so I think given that earned media, the paid media isn't as effective as it used to be, and they're always going to have more of it. And social media, the algorithms and their false information is really skewing that. I don't think there's any shortcut from this person-to-person localized contact and really trying to make sure that we're all riffing on a very narrow set of themes, even if we're riffing in our own voices.
Yes, thank you. And that's a great way to close up because it really gives us concrete thoughts on this. And I think it comes down to people. We're the party of the people, and we need to be getting out there. I love truth squads. I know different groups have done different things, street teams, and really just start talking to each other and to people in our district. So thank you, Tom. Good luck with everything. Happy New Year. And we hope to get you back on the show.
Oh, anytime you call, I'll answer. And good luck to Congresswoman Spanberger and Prophet Cole.
Yes, like we said, Abigail's mom's here, and we know where your mom is too. And if we can't find you, we know where mom is. So
yes,
thank you, Tom.
Upgrade anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
right up, without further ado, we're going to go right over because what a great setup for Abigail Spanberger. We worked so hard to elect you, meeting you back in 2018 at the Women's Summit, and we're going to do it again, my friend. So let's just get right at it. Give us an update. What's happening on Capitol Hill? We saw your words around January 6th. There's a lot going up. So just get it going here. Tell us what's on your mind.
So it's a time of a lot of in the House side, and Tom made mention of this, like momentum within the House of Representatives. We continue to pass really good legislation. We continue to face some hurdles in the United States Senate. Right now, we just passed yet another voting rights piece of legislation in the House, where all eyes are on the Senate to see what comes next. We have passed out the Build Back Better framework, and I call it a framework because we knew the negotiations are ongoing. We passed that out of the House. Certainly, we passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, as well as legislation week after week after week that goes through relatively kind of unnoticed because it's not particularly kind of headline grabbing. It's not particularly contentious, but it really has meaningful impact on people's lives. One of the things that I'm really excited about and proud of is all of the work that we have done this year, right? As Democrats, I think far too often we think, okay, we've done something, so it's gone. What are we doing now? What do we want to do next, right? Like the to-do list where we're constantly ticking off all the things that we've done because we're action-oriented, but at the same time, the actions we have taken are actions that we need to continue highlighting, actions we need to continue talking about. The American Rescue Plan was transformative for so many communities, large, small, rural, urban, across the board, families, small businesses, supporting our schools, supporting our municipalities, major investments in broadband connectivity. The list goes on and on. The infrastructure bill, which we haven't even begun to see the impact of the infrastructure bill, which is law, which we will see investments throughout Virginia and certainly the rest of the country, right? Continuing to say when we are governing, this is what we're delivering. that continues to be a primary focus for me. And then, working on moving forward on all these other issues that continue to, find some hurdles along the way. I've been working on a bill for a year and a half, 2 years now, related to stock trading in members of Congress. And suddenly we are finally getting attention. We keep adding more co-sponsors, and it's getting a lot of engagement. So, it's a constant process of moving the ball forward, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, you've got a big shout out from Tom in the chat about that ban on stock trades. And I think we can agree on that on both sides. And I was kind of disappointed when I saw some of our party talk about it's okay. And I'm like, no, and look at the Fed chair. We just saw the Fed making some trades around the pandemic, right? And they've stepped down. So this is really
and we saw that in the early days of the pandemic. There was, senators, House members buying, selling. What for me was the most horrifying bit of it was we had all this reports that, this person's buying this person's buying that. And the public's reaction was, of course, right? The public's reaction was just what I would expect. And so for me, the bill that would say you can't buy or sell individual stocks, if you have them, you got to put them in a blind trust, pretty straightforward. It is about ensuring that there isn't bad behavior, but going a step further and being able to say, not only am I going to avoid impropriety, right? The mere appearance of impropriety is something that is also important that I avoid. And I'm doing that by saying, if you have stock holdings, you put them in a blind trust, or you don't buy or sell individual stocks. And so, we're really kind of pushing on this idea because we have to take actionable steps as elected members of Congress to give people more reasons to trust us. And so if we can say, you think that this is a problem, that everybody's self-dealing and buying stocks based on information we have access to, okay, your perception is what matters. So let's make it so we can't even have that option.
Especially when you want to return this trust in government that's trying to be eroded by certain folks, that it's so important. I know in Virginia, we've been fighting a lot about getting money, campaign finance reform, and it's been difficult. I mean, you see how that, so we're so grateful for your work on that. And I know people are all excited in the chat about everything you've been doing. So let's talk about your new district and redistricting and what you're thinking about, again, getting your message out. And what are your thoughts on, the redistricting, your new district, and how you will be getting this message? And one person in the chat said, especially when the Republicans are trying to take, trying to say that even though they voted against the infrastructure bill, they're taking, credit for it now with their constituents. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack there, but let's talk about your new district.
Well, and I would just, with that note, this is a place where, to Tom's point, having people constantly say, who voted for that infrastructure bill? It was bipartisan, right? I mean, we had lots of Republicans in the Senate vote for it, not as many, proportionately speaking, in the House. But let's be clear, when we are sending, billions of dollars to Virginia to repair our roads and bridges, who were the legislators in Virginia who voted for it? House members and senators. And I think making sure that people know that. And that's a message. Certainly, I'm proudly touting that I voted for it. But reminding people, not everybody did, is I think an important role that people on the ground can say, just in conversations with neighbors. Well, this act of governance, this act of investing in our nation, in our water pipes, and in our sewage infrastructure, and our roads and bridges and internet, actually, these are the people who are focused on governing and delivering those solutions. So the new district, Virginia's 7th district with the final redistricting maps, was pretty much quartered in terms of the landmass and population. And so I am excited that my current district, which I continue to represent till January 2023, and I am proudly making sure every one of my constituents knows that I am proudly representing them till January 2023, even when I'm going to be campaigning in the new 7th. The current 7th is a mix of very rural and agricultural and very suburban, running north to south through Virginia. And the new 7th is kind of just a flipped version of that. We have heavily suburban communities, Prince William, Stafford, Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg City, and we have more rural communities stretching out to Madison, Greene County, a very small sliver of Albemarle, just a tiny portion. And then we have Culpeper, Orange, Spotsylvania, I've already mentioned, and King George, Caroline County. So 11 localities in total in the new 7th. And it's an exciting option or opportunity for me to get out and just meet so many more Virginians. Certainly, many of the issues that matter to the people I currently represent are the issues that matter to the people I hope to earn the votes of. But I've just been so appreciative and excited to be able to join some local committee meetings so far, talk to people on the ground, and we are starting our, we've got to get petition signatures, so we're working aggressively for that. And between the blizzards or the heavy snow events and Omicron, I just can't wait to be in rooms full of people across our 11 localities.
I know, it's like Omicron. It's just, it's always another hurdle, but hopefully we'll be getting past this come spring and we can, learn to live with these things. And lastly, we're going to have Julie Womack is up from Red, Wine and Blue. And I know this is a lot of what's going on. I was at a school board meeting last night and it's very contentious and we're trying to support these elected officials. And also, it's our vote, really we're trying to, and down in Spotsylvania, you may have noticed that they actually just fired the the school board supervisor there. And how are you looking at this landscape where I feel it's Republicans' tactics to sort of drive the vote in a very chaotic way that puts students at risk and teachers at risk? But what is your messaging around that? How do you going forward when you see this movement that happened in the Virginia election, and then you're going to have to obviously confront it in this upcoming?
Question becomes, who's identifying a problem and then also seeking a solution, or who is sowing division and trying to sow confusion, anger, create a problem without any real solution. And when you look at it in that frame, like what is happening on the ground, the reality is, and I'm a parent of 3 school-age children. I've got 2 in elementary school, 1 in middle school. So, the past couple of years and the challenges that parents have faced are very real for me, right? When school closed, my daughter was in kindergarten, right? A kindergartner switching to virtual school. I represent so many counties where broadband connectivity, while we are making tremendous progress that I'm proud of, it is not yet universal in every home. And you have school superintendents and teachers reacting to the fact that they're trying to deliver learning to kids who can't get on that Zoom or Teams meeting. And so I think in that environment, recognizing the challenges that parents are facing, that kids are facing, the stress of the ongoing pandemic, then the question is, well, all of these challenges are here. What are we doing to help families?
Right.
And I would point to the American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan delivered more than $2 billion directly to Virginia's school districts.
Right.
So that localities on the ground, be it buying new school buses with better air conditioning and heating systems so that they can circulate air, new HVAC systems, hiring new counselors. Like, these are the ways that we as parents, can be sure that our kids are going to be safe in this circumstance of this ongoing pandemic. But also it's an example of when there is a problem on the ground and when our school districts are saying, like, we need help, this is what we are able to deliver. And many of us worked for significant flexibility for our school districts to be able to recognize locally what they need.
Yes.
And so, we continue to hear, people that sort of want to can push on different issues and create conflict. But at the end of the day, our kids need strong schools, teachers who are valued, parents who have the ability to advocate for their kids and engage on issues. They need safe spaces, they need safe transportation, and they need the support of their entire community: parents, teachers, local leaders, state leaders, and federal leaders. Yes. And so I think that in this greater context, when it's like, who's trying to really deliver help and services?
Yes.
It's
the Democrats.
Yeah.
Well, no, I loved asking that question. To hear your response is just really what we need to hear, what people need to hear, and it is getting that message out. And I want to say that next week we'll be talking about the ERA. I know we have to wrap up the section, but I hope the ERA, we can sort of make this move. We fought so hard. Wrap that up just in like 30 seconds. What are you thinking? ERA?
I think there's some experts on the line who probably know the current status better than I. Certainly in the House, we've pushed to make sure that the deadline's gone. At this point in time, we also are looking at the archivist. All eyes are on the archivist. Ideally, the archivist will just, it's ratified. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you.
If there's any questions, certainly the House took steps. But I think all eyes are continue to be on the archivist, and certainly I would love to see the Biden administration make a statement in support of actually filing.
Can you send him a little note for us to slip it in his pocket, just right in there, right? But thank you, Abigail. It's always a pleasure. We are going to work like heck to get you reelected for sure. Obviously you and Elaine and Jennifer Wexton are the three that we sent up, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we send you back. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you and everything you do for Virginia and our country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Jalecia Ward, let's come up. We have something really fun and really good to share. So I'll let you take it over.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Catherine. So as you all know, this coming Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And in order to get us ready and going, let's just go ahead and start with a quick video that's going to prepare us to celebrate our American hero this Monday.
I really believe that we are the answered prayers of our ancestors.
Black women will continue to show up. But now it's time for America to show up for us.
I've been in activism for about 25 years. Black women have played such a powerful and critical role in the civil rights movement. The president and the Congress ran on the platform of making sure that our democracy would actually be solidified. It's time for the filibuster to be dismantled. It's a relic of the Jim Crow era.
My generation can't vote, but your vote affects us.
What we plan to do on this MLK Day of Service is cross bridges to symbolize, send a clear message to the Congress and to the president that you delivered for the bridges, and now it's time to deliver for the people. If you thought that you would march with Martin Luther King Jr., my question would be, are you marching now?
What a powerhouse. And if you guys are available this Monday for that peace walk, we're going to drop the link right in that chat. Make sure you go to Washington, D.C. and you show up, because that is going to be so magnificent and powerful. And if you guys don't know, the King Request family, what they actually did a call to action, and it's something I've had the honor to be working on behind the scenes. They want all of you to write your congressional leaders and ask them to support 3 legislations for the Voting Rights Act. The first one, the Freedom to Vote Act. The second one, the John Lewis Voting Right Advancement Act. And the third, the Electoral Count Act. So very, very grateful that the King family actually gave us all a call to action. And I hope that you guys all have the time this weekend to make sure that you're respecting them with this call to action and reaching out to your congressional leaders, because we definitely want to see this voting right acts and help it pass us forward. So grateful for the King family, but even more grateful that we have Joshua Cole here with us today. Cole, hey, best friend.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh my goodness. It is Happy New Year. I'm so glad that you're here. Look, we have a lot to talk about in this segment, but first and foremost, how are you? How have you been after this electoral season?
I am well. As soon as the election was over, while it hurt, I went right on vacation and enjoyed some good time by the beach.
You did. You sent me a photo. I checked on you. You remember that? I was so devastated. I probably was crying when I was texting you. And then you sent me a photo of you literally, where were you, jet skiing?
Yeah, we were, but not jet skiing. We were, what do you call it when you're in the parasailing?
Parasailing. And then I was like, oh, okay, never mind. He's fine. So I'm so glad.
I think what's so amazing is that, sometimes you have to go rejuvenate, and we're ready back. We're right for the fight again. And so we're just going to keep staying in the game and making sure that people understand the importance of activating, organizing, and showing up, because the work is not over yet.
Absolutely. No, the work is just beginning. And I think that's what we are all here for. And mental health is priority. So I'm so glad you took that time, invested into your mental health, and spent that time with friends and family and went on vacation. I wish, you could have put me in the suitcase, but that's okay.
Next
Because I
time.
definitely could have used that after 11 months of campaigning. But listen, we got the voting rights, and we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming on Monday. So definitely, I know you're here with us. Definitely share your perspective on voting rights, and what do you have planned for MLK on Monday?
What I think is so powerful is how history has a way of repeating itself. Back in 1957, there was a prayer vigil or a prayer march that was led on in DC, and they held it right on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And Martin Luther King delivered a speech entitled "Give Us the Ballot." And this was their push trying to pass, the Voting Rights Act. And there were so many key things that he stated that is still applicable today. One of the things that I also want to talk about, since Tom Perriello mentioned as a prophetic voice to politics, one of the things that we believe as Christians is we have martyrs, those who died, and that the work that they died doing is what gives us strength and power to keep doing what we're doing today. And so the death of Martin Luther King was a martyr. He was a martyr for civil rights, and we call voting a civic sacrament. And so we cannot let the voices, we cannot let the work that Martin Luther King did, the civil rights activists before us did, die in vain. And so we have to keep going. And one of the things that I thought was so interesting, that is so applicable today, that he said during that speech, he said, we have a Senate that's in Congress that is filled with people who are so far removed, and I'm Joshalizing this, so far removed from the struggles and the issues of the people that they don't think it's expedient to give the people the right to vote. And I'm going to say a few things that's going to sting, but hear me out. We literally have two rich, wealthy, white senators in DC who claim to be Democrats, who are blocking voting rights for millions of Americans. Right. And this is what's so sad, that we have been fighting for this fight for so long. Everyone on this call, I don't know, where you come from, who you are, you do not have the right to vote protected in the Constitution. Each and every one of us on this call, our right to vote is merely an amendment to the Constitution. And we are constantly fighting to make sure that our right to vote and our voices are heard. And so we have to do everything that we can. And so as you go about your day, as you go about your weekend, this long weekend, I'm seeing people's posts on Facebook that they're about to relax. They're going to enjoy this long weekend. Those of us who are on the call today, we've got work to do. We have to email, we have to call, we have to shake the dust off the people to make sure they understand that voting rights has to be protected. And we have a call to action. We saw the video that you put up, that there's a march in DC, that there's marches all over the United States, that there's a lobby day in Richmond on Monday, and people can show up, show out, and lift your voices up. And that's what's going to have to happen. We're going to have to make sure that people understand the importance of our right to vote, and we cannot be quiet. We cannot sit down. It's about agitation. And now that we as Democrats are in the minority, I hate to say that, but we are now the agitators. We are now the one that pulls the lemon juice on the wounds. We are now the ones that keep pestering until we get to see what we want to see done. And this is key. Don't think it's strange that the Republicans are trying to steal our voters. The Republicans now lay claim to the first African-American woman elected to statewide position. And if we keep going along this same trajectory, Republicans may be able to say they have the first woman of color representing Virginia in Congress, but not on our watch. As the Democratic Party, who has been fighting for the rights of African-American people for years, it is our time to take it back. It is our time to say, no longer will you take that, those great trademarks from us. No longer will you take those lights from us. We are celebrating, we are the party of the people, and we are going to keep delivering for the people. And so we have to keep agitating, we have to keep pushing, and don't let up, don't give up. Make sure people understand we need the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to pass. And I don't care if you have cousins in West Virginia or Arizona, Tell them to blow up Cinema's phone. Tell them to blow up Joe Manchin's phones, and tell them to pass the bill. Give us the ballot, in the words of Martin Luther King. So thank you so much. Keep pushing, keep activating, keep mobilizing. The time is now, and we must keep pushing forward.
We must keep pushing forward. Thank you so much, Joshua Cole. Thank you for coming to the show and for sharing that. That was absolutely powerful and amazing. And he is right. We must keep pushing forward. We cannot allow this moment to bypass us. And speaking of action, our campaign spotlight is 100% going to Julie Greenberg. Hi, Julie. How are you? Oh, Julie, we can't hear you.
I thought I'd unmuted, but there.
Oh no, you're good to go.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, welcome, Julie. I'll do a quick introduction. So
okay, go ahead.
Greenberg is from Defenders of Democracy Against Disinformation. If you guys don't know, the issue is Fox News, as we all know that. And Julie is in our campaign spotlight because she is doing the work she's here to educate us on how we can make sure that we have nothing to do with funding Fox News with something so simple that we might not even realize, as far as streaming subscriptions, is where their main income is coming from. So thank you so much, because we want to make sure that we are not a part of misinformation that's being put out to our people in the public. And so thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you for being here with us. And definitely tell us about Defenders of Democracy Against Disinformation.
Okay, thanks, Jalecia. So I'm going to talk in bullets, because a lot of what I'm going to say is going to connect with stuff you already know. So Defenders of Democracy Against Disinformation is a new group, stood up in October of this year by 5 people scattered across the country who just could not take sitting back anymore. We have 2 goals. We want to be a place where activists across the country can find actions that stop the normalization of disinformation outlets like Fox News and reduce their revenue. We want to be a clearinghouse. Right now we have 2 campaigns, and I'm going to talk about one of them. The reason that this campaign is so relevant to people on this call is, well, there's many, many reasons, but one of them is it's going to scratch an itch that a lot of you have felt, because you've wanted to get Fox News out of your TV package. A lot of you know it's there. A lot of you maybe don't realize it is, but it is. And it's frustrated you. So you've wanted to unfox your cable box. You've probably signed on to petitions to do that. Maybe you've called a cable company about that. Probably hasn't worked. So this campaign that I'm going to talk about is an opportunity to take advantage of one of only 4 ways that you can stop having Fox News be in your TV package and therefore be something you are subsidizing, probably about $24 a year. And all the millions of people who do not watch Fox, but who pay that $24 a year, are the ones that provide most of Fox News's revenue. So the most impactful personal thing you could do to fight back against Fox News is to stop paying that. Now, this is something that will take a little bit of effort, but it's a one and done sort of thing. So what I'm going to do today is just provide you with 3 pieces of information that you can act on. One is I'm going to tell you the 4 options. And that may be enough for some of you to run and take care of the situation if you can. I'm also going to direct you, and there'll be information in the chat, to resources on the Defenders website, stopdisinformation.org. And there are roadmaps that will help you figure out how to navigate through talking with a sales agent at Verizon or at Spectrum to get what you want. As you know, they don't make it easy sometimes, but we help make it easy. And then there's a January 20th tip session where I can provide a little bit more back and forth help You can sign up for that. That's in the chat. So let me just give you the basics right now. As I said, this may be enough for some of you. The 4 options, and this is 4 throughout the whole, that we have found throughout the whole country. We've been digging to try to find this. There are 2 streaming options that contain news, but don't contain Fox News. Those 2 streaming options are Sling Orange and Philo. So if you want to do streaming, you could do it nationwide with one of those. There are 2 options that connect to internet. And in Virginia, both of those options are available, not always in the same place, but they are Verizon Fios with a package that you ask for by name. It's called, and this is the title, Mix and Match 2.0, Your Fios TV. Okay. This allows you something that most people don't know they can, well, something we've been asking for, and most people have not been able to find with their cable company, choice. You get choice of channels. And then the last option is, if you're a Spectrum Internet customer, there is something called TV Choice. Again, you get to pick your channels. So I'm going to stop right there because time is short, but there's plenty of information that I want to provide to you. If you want to pursue this, please do. Please stop paying that money to Fox News. You know how pernicious an influence that is on our media environment. Why do we have to work so hard to message? Why is our messaging always coming up short? It's because we're fighting this enemy in lies from Fox News. Yes. So thanks for having me, and please let us be a resource for you.
Well, thank you, Julie. And we hope that you stay with us in the after chat.
Yes,
I want to take notes, but I also have to sit here and talk to you and listen, because who doesn't want to save money a year, right? So this is something that we all honestly need to do. It's action. And we thank you so much for providing us this information. Stick around so that way we can actually take some, I know we're dropping stuff in the chat, but we want to make sure that we all take the time and initiative to do what you're asking us to do, and not so that way that we can stop the funding in Fox News and make sure, because that's going to help us out tremendously. So thank you for coming to the show and sharing that.
Julie. Thank you, Jalecia. Good stuff. Always great to see Josh in the room.
Absolutely.
And speaking of, thank you. We'll see you in the after chat. And I have to say, speaking of just in the general troublemakers, Julie Womack, I'm glad you're here. Red, Wine, and Blue, and even Tom Perriello obviously knows about your group, because I think that they've been somehow really keeping an eye on what you're doing. They love it. Let's just talk right away. Let's just get to it. What is Red, Wine, and Blue?
All right. Thank you for having me, number one. So excited. Red, Wine, and Blue is an organization that is focusing entirely on engaging and empowering suburban women. Because in case you guys didn't hear, it was kind of a big deal in the 2020 election. And moving forward, what we noticed and what we found was that after 2016, there were so many suburban women who just got, engaged, right, myself included. I was very much one of those like moms running around trying to, juggle all the balls in the air that you do, thinking I was like, well, I vote and I pay attention. Right. And then that election happened and we were all like, oh God, no, we need to do so much more. Right. And so Red, Wine, and Blue was really started with the purpose of keeping women engaged, empowering them to take action in their community, start organizing, start forming groups, and then, reaching out to your networks, because women in the suburbs do not have polarized networks. A lot of times we know people because our kids played sports together or ran a book club. It's not like politics, right? So you can have influence. So that's really kind of the overall what Red, Wine, and Blue is all about. We started in Ohio. We have staff in Ohio. We have hired staff in North Carolina. We are continuing to keep expanding. We have a national network because we have a Facebook group that has about 213,000 women in it. So nationwide, if you would like to check it out, it is called Sweep Like the Broom by Red, Wine, and Blue. It stands for Suburban Women Engaged, Empowered, and Pissed. So feel free to join in there. I will, you can search for that on Facebook. We also have a podcast, which is another way to really engage women. It is called The Suburban Woman Problem, which Lindsey Graham famously said about the Republican Party, that they had a suburban woman problem. So we have to thank him for the name. But you can find that on any podcast, on any podcast station. And I'm going to drop a couple of links here in the chat too. So hopefully you guys can find us. But anyways, that podcast features 3 amazing women from suburban areas around the country, Georgia, Ohio, and Virginia. Rachel Vindman, who you guys probably know, who's the wife of Alexander Vindman, who testified against Trump, is one of our hosts on that podcast. The new season launches actually this coming Wednesday. So with the guest is Soledad O'Brien. So that's pretty exciting. It's really features the stories of women, what they're dealing with, what their concerns are, highlighting real women who are standing up for their kids in their communities. And then like great guests like Soledad, we've had Chasten Buttigieg, Heather Cox Richardson, Representative Lauren Underwood. So just amazing people coming on to really inform. So definitely the link there is in the chat for that. And then I don't have to tell, I'm sorry, do you need me to?
No, I want to know. I was thinking, I know, like I was at a school board meeting last night, like I said, and it was so funny because I'm in the row, and it's one of those things where people are trying to ban books and they're trying to talk just outrageous stuff was happening there. And I'm in your troublemaker training in my ear. So I'm on your call sitting in there. I was just laughing at that. I'm like, here I am, I'm in the troublemaker training, and I'm also right in the middle of a school board. So yeah, and so those actions coming up about stuff like that, this seems like this is the hotbed of where the Republican Party wants to activate the vote for the upcoming election. So what are you guys kind of thinking that you'll be doing around that kind of activity?
Yeah, thank you, 100%. And I have to say, I know Virginia is no stranger to school board issues. Right. So what you guys saw, in Virginia during your governor's race is 100% going to be continuing through 2022. So we are actually super focused on school board issues, getting women organized. We have been doing things like Catherine just mentioned, the troublemaker trainings, which is where women can come, get best tips and tricks and practices to organize, hear from other women who are actually doing that work in their community to get, advice on that. We had 3 fabulous women from Connecticut last night who did some amazing work in Newtown. So definitely you can come and check that out. We also are about to launch in a couple weeks a campaign completely focusing on these book bans. It's really kind of scary how many of these have kind of sprouted up around the country. Like there's like 101, I think, or so. I mean, it's just all
intentional. I always tell people it's intentional. Don't look at this shiny objects. It's all about trying to get people elected. It's dark money. It's everything. So I'm so glad you're doing that. I know we're at 105. We're still holding on here. So I want to thank you, Julie, for Red Wine and Blue. Stay for the after chat because people may want to ask you questions. So please stick around. So let's just wrap up, if I can, with all our guests and thank everybody. It's only our second January of the winter season. So I'm so glad that you're here. Next week, we will be unpacking more around the ERA, and we have a special guest, David Pepper. He's a former head of the Ohio Democratic Party. I'm sure Julie knows him. And he's the author of Laboratories of Autocracy, really talking about the wake-up call behind the lines when we talk about what's happening to the threats of our democracy and why state legislatures are so important. So we hope you join us. Make sure, again, become a patron of the show. We love your support. It really helps us do our work. Follow us on Twitter and social media, and make sure that if we can put the links in, you'll get a recap email, but make sure you subscribe to Stair's good work. I want to thank Tom Perriello, Abigail Spanberger, also the Josh Cole, Julie Greenberg, and Julie Womack for being our special guest today, and for my wonderful team. And let's go. Let's run the credits.